Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Best Mountain Farm. And today we are going to continue trying to get Aidan's or the porch closed in so that Aidan can move down here into Chelsea's spare bedroom
for a month before.
So we've got our walls up, and today, before we start doing anything insulating or making stuff hard to get to, we're going to at least try and get our wire ran to the outlet boxes so that we can start getting all that stuff wired up before we close in anything, and just make it a whole lot easier to get around and get the wires through and all. So luckily under here we have an access door there to the underside of the house, and we're going to open that up. Need to run grab a flashlight. Of course, I left it, and we're going to get under there and fall over to where the breaker box is. I think we might need to pull a piece of paneling off in her bedroom to access underneath the house there, so we can get some wires pulled under there. And really, none of this, I like electrical and I like wiring stuff up. I just hate getting the wire where you need to get it. It sucks. However, I just happen to have a little skinny guy here that can pull that wire for me.
I'm used to it.
Hey, this project benefits you 100%.
For a month.
Yeah, he's going to go back to Yellowstone.
I'm going back to Yellowstone.
Well, too, if you don't leave till March. But
March or April, depends on when he wants me out there.
Anyway, let's now go back and grab a good flashlight so we can get under there and start getting this taken care of. Okay, so everybody knows me, and I'm trying to be frugal where I can. So this wire is 12 gauge wire, and it's actually the wire that powered the homestead Airbnb. So I brought it up. I figured there'd be a use for it. There's a couple places, I was just inspecting it, there's a couple little scuff marks. Right here you can see it's into the neutral wire, but only the one wire, so be getting some electrical tape here in a second, get that taped up really well. I already looked at it, there's nothing broken, and it's all good to go. So we'll be having to do that before we get started, and just go ahead and get that knocked out and let my flashlight on. So let's go grab some electrical tape, and I also left the voltmeter up at the farmhouse. We got our voltmeter, and then we're gonna go break into the breaker box, make sure we have plenty of empty spots, and if we're lucky, there'll be an empty breaker. If not, we are just running preliminary wiring right now, so who knows. All right, so we've got our breaker box, and looks like the trim, I'm gonna have to take this piece of trim off. Aidan's grabbed me the Wonder Bar, and we're gonna have to pull some trim down here and pull this piece of beadboard back so that we can get down to the floor. And it looks like we got lucky. There are two empty breakers, a 15 and a 20 amp. So I'm not even gonna have to go buy any breakers. All I gotta do now is pull this piece of paneling back enough to feed wire down under the house. You can see right here, right there is our opening right down to the house, so we should be able to just get our wire under there and poke it right up, and we'll be able to go right up in here, get us a hold down, and or use one of the other hold downs there and run our wire right up into the right up where it needs to go. All right, well, that part's gonna be a lot easier than I thought. So let's go start getting our wire over to the this side of the house. All right, so before we start pulling under the house, I'm gonna go ahead and tape up these spots that I needed to tape up. Okay, now Aidan gets to have fun and put some sweat equity into.
Yeah, last time I was under the house, I gave myself a I don't know if you remember that or not, but I do.
All right.
Oh God.
So, you saw where the breaker box was, right? So you see, it's right back there on that back wall. You'll see where the other wires go up.
Yeah, it's all the way back there.
And so to start pulling, when you get there, all go inside, and
should be over in that back corner.
Yep.
Over there.
You'll see other wires going up, and then you'll fish feed this up to me, and hang on just a second, let me.
Oh, you just want to cut. Okay.
So what we're going to do to make life a little easier is that, and that way it's just, not 3 wires that's going to get all tangled up trying to put them up in that hole.
Oh boy.
And I'll keep this from getting tangled up.
There we go. My maiden voyage.
He's going in. Getting kind of tight.
A little bit. But you couldn't pay it enough to go under here.
What?
You couldn't pay it touchy enough to go under here.
No, probably not. Pull you plenty of slack up there. All right, I'm gonna head inside.
All right.
It's really nice not to have to do that myself. Really nice. All right, can you see my light?
Yeah.
All right. I need a little bit more. All right, that's good. All right, I thought that was gonna be a lot harder. So how was it?
I found all the spiders. All of them. Every single one of them.
Were there a lot of them?
Oh my god. Well, I mean, it wasn't bad, but then I looked up. I saw all of them.
At least there's no other bugs.
No.
All right, so what we're going to do now, we should have maybe put the hole in first up there, but since I know we're only going just past the stairs and going up, it'd be easier, instead of trying to pull the wire through the small hole, we'll figure out about how much length we need and go ahead and cut it so we can pull a smaller amount through this hole. So I'm going to grab the drill and the speed bores, and we're going to get started drilling an access hole for our wire.
Am I going back under?
No. Okay, so we're just going to go All right, so I'm going to need to run up and see if Bobby Hugh has some electric staples so that we can staple that up here in just a second. But we'll go ahead and get our hole board for this wire to go up right here and put it up there, and then we'll be good to staple that up and start running our outlet boxes and daisy chaining our outlet boxes together. And right here is the reason that I wanted to do this right now, because with no walls or anything, it makes getting to all this much easier. Is it through?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
And voila! Alright, so I got 6 outlet boxes to start with. So we're probably going to do one here, and so then we'll start cutting wire. Sorry. Oops.
Well, you didn't give me much room to get up.
All right, and then we'll set the other ones out. So we're going to have to start. Go ahead and start speed boring, basically through each one of the studs.
That wasn't me. Oh, it was me.
Still taking applications.
Yeah, good. Take the application. I'm gonna be gone for a while.
All right, so now let's get all these holes drilled, and then we'll start putting up our boxes. All right, so I've got four 4 outlets and go on this back wall. So I've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if I go every 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll put an outlet every other stud, and they'll be fairly evenly spaced and should work out. All right, so right here where these studs were, they weren't even to fit. The drill is too long to get anything in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to notch out a place right here that we can put our wires in behind the drywall. Okay, now you can see how this worked out. Just this little hole, or this little slot right here. And what I will do, like, this isn't the best way, but it's not the worst way. But what I will do right here is get a thin strip of metal that I will put over this. That way when anyone's putting up drywall, we don't have to worry about any screws running into that. So, or nails, the drywall screws won't hit down here, because they'll only run in about a ½ inch. But right here there will be a thin piece of metal to make sure that nothing runs into this. So, just got a few more holes. Luckily we've got another length of wire down there, so we just got to keep going, and we'll put our last one right here on this wall, and that will be all 6 of our outlets. And then we'll go and turn the breaker off, go ahead and wire up inside and put that all back together, and then
try not to shock yourself.
We'll get some outlets this evening so that tomorrow we can put our outlets in. Okay, so in anticipation of running a second strand of wire, I don't have enough to run to the breaker box, so that we can run 2 breakers depending on what they need to plug in out here. I'm going to go ahead, these 3 outlets will be on 1 breaker, and this one will be on a separate one. So I'm going to go ahead and get my hole cut here, drilled here, so that I can fish a piece of wire down in here and have it inside the outlet box, so that whenever I get the rest of the wire, all I'm going to have to do is put a junction box under the house and a junction box right here to tie into, and we'll go ahead and run a piece of wire down from the breaker box down underneath, so that underneath the house, so that everything's already set, and all we have to do is hook in our 1 piece of wire to get it all set up. All right, so I got just simple, inexpensive boxes here, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape measure, which we just had. It's right here. We want to put them all about the same, so we'll go 8 inches
From the bottom.
from the 8 inches to the bottom of the box. Now we want to put all these the same height because it's going to make it a whole lot easier with the drywall, cutting the drywall, and it's just going to make it look a lot neater. So 8 inches to the bottom of the box. And if you notice, if you ever need to put any of these in, these little marks, they're there for a reason. So these marks, you put them on the outside of the stud, and they're set at 3/8. I think these are set at 3/8. Right at 3/8, almost a half. But you want to make sure these are on the outside of the stud, and the reason for that is when you put the drywall, up, you want the outside of this box flush with the drywall so that you can screw your outlet covers in, and they're going to be good to go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and get this one screwed in here. Now you don't want to ever tighten these down too tight because it's not hard to break the plastic out of there.
Plastic crack.
All right, so now what I was showing you guys, I brought a flathead screwdriver here. Bend these little tabs. And this acts as a lock. You can't pull them back down. Just making sure that the insulation or the inner insulation wasn't clipped. There we go. You can see I left a little extra. I always like leaving a little bit too much, just because it makes it a lot easier to hook
So you
up.
have to do things 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, that way if I do mess something up, it's not hard. All right, so let's get these, the rest of these all put up. Okay, so we've got all of our wires ran. Like I was saying, we still need to make our metal plates to cover the cords through the big part. That won't be hard at all. And we've got one more thing we've got to do, just like I did right here. But I didn't. I waited until just now to tell him because I was afraid he would.
Am I going back on this?
Disappear. Smart kid. Smart kid. All right, so let's go in here. I'll show him what he's got to do, and he's got to go under one more time. All right, so here we are back in Chelsea's room, and all I've got to do is, when he gets under there, feed him this piece of wire right next to the other one. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm here.
Let me know when you see it. Huh? Yeah? Which way do I need to, oh, I see where you're. I'm trying to find, okay. Can you see it? All right, there we go. All right, pull.
Is that where you want it?
Yeah, is that black mark showing? It just need a couple feet under there.
I see it. All right.
Okay. All right. We're good.
Yep.
All right. You're good. All right. So now the reason I did that is because now I can go ahead and take this wire, attach it to this breaker, and we'll turn the breaker off. And that way I can put all this back together. All our wires are connected. And then when we get ready to run the second wire, as soon as I get more wire here tomorrow, next day, we'll just use junction boxes and we'll connect it, these two, or the one wire that's going to run to this breaker, we'll connect it and then connect it with a junction box out there, and I don't have to open this wall up because everything's already connected. So once I get this wall put back together right now, I shouldn't have to ever take it back apart, and that's the goal. So I'm gonna go get my voltmeter, and we are going to go ahead and turn these breakers off, ensure that they don't have any power, and we're going to start getting all this buttoned back up. Okay, so now we are going to get these buttoned back up, and there's a couple of hold downs here. I'll be able to use these hold downs here for the extra, or to run this wire through, and then we're going to double check our breakers, turn the power off, make sure they don't have any power, and go ahead and get these tied in. So we've got our wiring hooked up. And now I'm just making a little slit in this outer insulation here. If you, when you cut this insulation, the outer insulation is easy to cut, so you can just use a knife and do like I just did, because the inner insulation here is pretty tough. But you want to still be kind of careful. All right, now I've got both of our breakers off here, and I'll show you guys what you want to look for to make sure that your breaker's good, because breakers can go bad and get stuck open or closed. So if it's a breaker you've never used before, always check it. So you can see right here, reading 123 volts, checking from our ground to our terminal on our breaker. Now I'm going to turn the breaker off, and no volts. So I know I'm not getting any current when my breaker's off. And I already checked this other one and I know it's good. So now we are going to wire this up. And if you'll notice on this side, we've got our copper. So this side's our ground. Over here are white wires. Those are our neutral wires. And the neutral is nothing but a feedback system to the grid. A ground goes to the ground. The neutral runs back to the power grid. So it's a fail-safe in case the ground doesn't work. Just an extra safety measure that they started implementing. I'm not sure exactly when, sometime in the late 70s, early 80s. And obviously now it's mandatory. So all I've got to do is get my ground wires nice and neat, and power wires, run everything to its appropriate place. So I've got my first set of wires ran. Always want to make sure your ground and your neutral are tight, because a bad ground is not a good thing. So make sure here, I see it's nice and tight. A bad ground can cause a lot of problems. And I cut everything to length so it all sits nice and neat in the box. You're always much better off keeping your box neat, not leaving any extra wires. Cut everything to length so it goes from the edge of the box over to your breaker or wherever it needs to run. Definitely gonna save you a lot of work if you need to do anything like I'm doing now in the box, and it can also save you a lot of time and misery. Like a loose ground cause heat, which would cause a fire. Definitely something you don't want to do. So we've got our first outlet wired. Now we are going to wire in our first breaker. We're going to wire in our second breaker, and then we're going to finish getting all this stuff here put back together. All right, so everything's nice and neat. I've got my strain reliefs, that's actually what they're called, the strain reliefs, hooked up and tightened so that nothing can pull them back down from underneath if we're under there working. Everything's tightened up nice and tight. I got both these breakers off and verified that they have no power to them. There is one more thing I want to mention if you decide to try a wire breaker or put something in. So this bar right here, this copper bus bar, that is connected up here to your two 120 volt wires. So one side's 120 volt, the other side's 120 volt. So if you have a 220 breaker like this, that's or 240 breaker, that's now 240 volts. And one thing to keep in mind that is really important, that always has power unless you turn your main breaker off. Now if you're just wiring in a single breaker, you don't have to turn the main breaker off. You can keep your light and everything running. Just be careful and be aware that if you touch that with your hand or a errant wire, someone comes in contact with that, it will have 120 volts minimum. If you touch it on each side, it will have 240 volts, which will then proceed to go to the nearest ground, which will be wherever you are touching the ground or a wall. So it will pass through you and it will hurt and possibly kill you. So be very careful of that bus bar when you are working on a electrical panel. All right, so a couple pieces of trim, get our cover back on, and I think we'll be about ready to wrap this part of the project up. All right, well, that's a wrap. We got a pretty good bit done today. Got our preliminary wire ran under the house, hooked up to the breakers. Got all of our wiring pulled through the walls. Our outlets boxes in, so I feel pretty good about it. So now I can go to Lowe's, get some more wire, some outlets, couple other little odds and ends, and by tomorrow or the next day we will have power to the outlets out here. So
Well, we gotta go pick up your things.
yep, so that's day late and $1 short there, kid. Day late and $1 short.
I'm always $1 short.
I think he hit his head a few times under the house.
I hit my head really hard. My head hurts so bad right now. Well, because
why I didn't go under there.
These little things that come down off the metal, and I didn't see it.
Those little things that get you every time. All right, guys, well, make sure and like, subscribe, and share. Hope y'all learned a little bit of something, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.